Okay. Uh, Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good. Praise the Lord. Welcome. Couple things, just real quick before we get started. We do have some little I don't know, little cards that just have some information about our Easter service and the church. They're on this back table right here as you walk out, and then the table that's out in the foyer. I was hoping to have got them in some time ago, but they just got in today. So if you want to, just take a little stack of those on your way out and hand them out to anybody you want to, and just get them out for Easter. I guess we have about a week and a half. It's going to be Easter soon. Can you believe it? It'll be crazy. And we do need to, I will make another announcement on Sunday, but we're going to just ask everybody, if you would, when you come in, to kind of like fill in empty seats and just sit next to people, because we'll see how it goes. But we actually had a record high attendance this last Sunday, I think ever in this building, from talking to Pastor Andy, who was the pastor here during I guess maybe the height of this church's history. And it seems that we're reaching a new threshold now, which is exciting. But we had about 112, 15 people or something here on Sunday, and we counted about probably 20 to 25 of our regular attendees who weren't here, which means if we all show up on one Sunday, which we presume everyone will do on Easter, except for the Hambies. They already know the story. They'll be gone. They're traveling. But we will likely have just about everybody here, and then we'll see what it looks like when we're all here together. And I anticipate that some people might have to be prepared to stand in the back. So we'll just see how it goes. But just be prepared when you come in on Easter to kind of fill in all the seats. And then we have made some pretty good headway on our roof fund, but we still do have a little bit more to go on that. So just be praying and considering about that if you haven't given about that. And we are shooting for the end of this month. So we got like about 2-3 weeks left. We'll have a better update for you about that on Sunday. But all right, well, here we go. We've been just kind of methodically moving through this idea, this study of knowing our enemy and realizing some of the approaches that the enemy takes, sometimes subtle, sometimes a little more overt, and how that influence has kind of crept into all manner of different aspects of society and the world and all kinds of things. And we're going to be looking at another one of those tonight. I know you all have been waiting with bated breath to talk about the enemy's influence in the United States of America. Caleb, if you can click over on that other computer on ProPresenter and just make that the top window. Must have got clicked off of. Thank you. That should do it. Perfect. Thank you. So, part 9. Can't believe we've already been at this it's been more than 9 weeks, because I think we took a week off or something in the middle, but couple months and a half now. But we're going to be talking about the United States of America tonight. So just some things to consider. And we revisit the idea that, there it is. All right. Janice, what did your phone say? Oh, okay. It announces the name, huh? That's pretty neat. I don't have that feature. So how spiritual authority secures temporal authority, and we see this in the mixture of religion and government. We've been talking about this idea that when it comes to government, The only power, really, that supersedes governmental power is spiritual power. And sometimes spiritual power is used as a ploy. Sometimes people pretend to be ambassadors of God or of some gods, and they just put it out there as a fiction. And then there are other times when people are actually tapping into the spiritual dimension in order to secure their kind of temporal, earthly authority. And we do see some of that taking place in the United States of America. And we've been talking about this idea, these various modes of attack, and with this secret, hidden knowledge that there is this enticement where people are drawn into the exploration of occult type practices, and then they are ultimately enslaved by them. We have been looking at this symbol that we see throughout various different places, and it is going to be more and more prominent. This is all going somewhere. So we see that little triangle like a capstone on a pyramid with an eye, which is indicative of some kind of deity. And we had talked a little bit a couple weeks ago about symbols, and symbols, they really can, to some degree, mean anything. And to some degree, I guess the meaning of a symbol is in the mind of the person who's using it. So there are, people who see this and they believe it to be, a representation of Yahweh, God. But the vast majority of places that you see this symbol used are in relation to occult practices, and it is a representation not of Yahweh, but usually of Lucifer. And we looked at some various things last week about Freemasonry in particular, and you see that symbol prominently up there on the right. And we closed kind of last week with the little list here of various U.S. presidents who were known Masons, and there they all are. I won't read the list to you, but they're all on there, and some prominent other figures throughout world history who were all known Masons. But one thing that we did not mention were a couple of prominent people in politics, one president and one would-be president who were in Skull and Bones, and that was George W. Bush and John Kerry. You might remember at one point they were running for the presidency against each other, and we knew that we were going to have somebody from the Skull and Bones as our president. And I came across this interesting interview clip here that I wanted to share with you from a talk show with George Bush and John Kerry. So here you go.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go
I'm
wild.
sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the web.
Number 322?
First of all, he's not the nominee. And, look, I look
Are
forward...
you prepared to lose?
No, I'm not going to lose.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
Is there a secret handshake? Is there a secret code?
I wish there were something secret I could manifest.
322, a secret number?
There are all kinds of secrets, Tim, but one thing is not a secret. I disagree with this president's direction that he's taking the country. We can do a better job, and I intend to do it.
And we'll be watching. Be safe on the campaign trail. John Kerry,
Yes,
thanks
sir.
for joining us. And we'll be right back.
So, they kind of dodged the question, maybe a little fishy, maybe not. That I'm failing. Does anybody recognize that host? What was his name? Who was it? Yes. Yeah. He died of a heart attack not too long after these interviews. Imagine that. I'm sure it wasn't anything nefarious. But just there are these things that kind of just get you scratching your head a little bit. And there is this kind of, it's like there's this multi-layered reality that we live in. And we kind of looked at this a little bit last week when we were talking about this idea of God. And we saw that symbol, with the triangle and the eye and all of that, and how God can mean various things to various people. And even, stamped on our U.S. currency, we have that phrase, which is, kind of a hallmark of the United States of America, which says, "In God we trust." And it is kind of, I don't know, just a little bit funny to me that it's put on our money. And it could either be, you could take it as a reminder that we do not trust in money, but we trust in God, the fact that it's there on our money. Or, of course, we know that money is a god to many people, and some people, money actually is their god. Of course, Jesus talks about this in Matthew chapter 6. He says, no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. And of course, the greater point here is that people all have some God. We talked about this several weeks ago when we were talking about your heart being a throne, and that someone or something sits on the throne of your heart. Something governs all of the decisions that you make in your life. Something is the authority in your life. For many people, it is money. There's a great amount of materialism that exists in our world. I remember when I was a youth pastor and talking to students. I had some 100 students in the youth group there, and I'd just be talking to them, and I would ask them, what do you want to do when you grow up? It's a kind of question you ask for teenagers when you graduate high school, and they would list off whatever job they wanted to have when they grew up, and then you follow that question with, why do you want to have that job? And you know what every single one of them said? Because you make a lot of money. That the future decisions of all of these children were based on how much money am I going to make. That became their God. Not what is God's will for my life, but how can I make the most money? And it is this thing that we have to struggle against, this materialism and our devotion to God. And it's just a interesting thing that it's there on our money. Money is an unfortunate reality in the world that we live in. You have to have it. We need it here at the church. We need it for a new roof. We've been asking for it. It's something that we have to have, but we have to be the master of money and not the other way around. And of course, God needs to be our master. We have been looking at this symbol quite a bit, and just what it represents. And again, I suppose in the eye of the beholder, definitely a pun intended there. But again, we see time and time again that even if this symbol were created initially with a good purpose and meaning behind it, which I highly doubt, but it has been hijacked and it has come to be something quite evil. I didn't intend to have this one back in here, but there it is. You have the word Mason there at the points of that star. Just a perhaps interesting coincidence. But these pyramid-type structures that we see all over the place and even on our money, and by chance, I suppose, this week my brother sent me this YouTube video about this pyramid that's in Memphis. Have you guys... Anybody seen this? It is now. It is now a Bass Pro Shop. It was not always a Bass Pro Shop. It was, when it first opened, it was supposed to be just a venue for all different kinds of events like basketball and concerts and all of those kinds of things. It opened sometime in the early 90s, and it was used for a couple years for those type of events. But all of these strange things started happening there. There were several people who died inside of this place. It was like the opening night, the first event they had there, which was some concert. All of the sewage backed up, all of the toilets backed up, and all the sewage came in and flooded the place out. People were falling down the stairs because, well, it's hard to put stairs in a pyramid-shaped building when all the walls are leaning in like this. So they're very steep stairs. There were all kinds of accidents, all kinds of horrible things happening, almost like the place was cursed. And then come to find out, perhaps it actually was. You can't make this stuff up. This building was the idea of one Isaac Tigert, who was the founder of both the Hard Rock Cafe and the House of Blues. He had this crazy accident where he was drunk driving, and he careened off of a road and went down some chasm about 400 feet and somehow miraculously survived. And he said that while that was happening, this Indian man, not Native American, but Indian man, cradled him as he was falling down the cliff to where he survived unscathed and walked out of the car. He never forgot that man's face. He ended up seeing his face on the back of a book one time when he was in a bookstore, and it was Sai Baba, who is this guy right here, who calls himself a prophet. He lives somewhere in India, and he went to go see Sai Baba, and he became something of a student of his. He ended up giving him millions of dollars to build some hospital and do whoever knows what else with it. And he told Sai Baba that he had this idea that he wanted to build this giant pyramid in Memphis, and there it is. And Sai Baba told him that when he was building that pyramid, he needed to secure at the peak of the pyramid, in the top section of the pyramid, he needed to put this crystal skull, and he gave him a crystal skull, and he said, you need to take this back to the United States of America, back to your pyramid, and you need to affix this at the very peak of that pyramid. So we see, again, this occult practice of putting these demonic sacred objects in the tops of pyramids. And what ended up happening was he put it there. It was welded in a steel box, and they welded that to the very top of this pyramid. And one day there were some maintenance people in there, and they saw it, and they said, what is that? And they ended up cutting it down, and they took it down. They opened up the metal box. Inside the metal box was a wooden box. They opened up the wooden box. Apparently a bunch of fragrance and perfumes and incense came out of it. And inside of that wooden box, they saw this crystal skull. And they said, well, we should probably get this out of here. They took it out, and as soon as they took it out, all of this crazy stuff started happening inside of the pyramid. If you don't believe me, this was actually covered on the local news channel, and I found this video, and you just have to see this. This is just too good, so here you go.
This is a live look. Construction is well underway at the Pyramid in downtown Memphis to turn the former Tomb of Doom into one of the largest Bass Pro Shops in the country. But that has not slowed down conspiracy theorists breathing new life into an old tale about a mysterious happening that was uncovered shortly after the facility opened.
Interesting. Action News 5's Kim Clark reports.
Construction is well underway to turn this facility into a Bass Pro megastore. Once branded the Tomb of Doom, home court for the University of Memphis Tiger basketball team, the aluminum-skinned Great American Pyramid Arena also served as the place to go in the Mid-South for concerts, monster trucks, rodeos, even National Promise Keeper religious gatherings. 10 years ago today, the Pyramid Arena was the place to be as Mike Tyson took on Lennox Lewis for the heavyweight championship of the world on the arena floor. Now, thanks to radio talk show conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, the empty arena is again in the national spotlight as a cornerstone of one of his rants against the occult.
And you can see the Memphis Pyramid built back in the early 1990s by John and Isaac Tigert. And these guys are admittedly into the occult. You can just look up their names. They're all over the local newspapers.
Jones' so-called facts are mostly slanderous in the internet video entitled Devil Pyramid Rotting in Memphis, but at least one of his statements is true. A crystal skull was discovered and subsequently removed from the tip top of the pyramid about a month after it opened in November 1991.
No one would go there anymore because of deaths and flooding and electrical problems and everything else you can imagine.
The Devil Palace, as Jones calls it, stayed in use throughout most of 2005, but was used less and less after FedEx Forum opened in 2004, home court for the NBA's Memphis Grizzlies.
You failed. Your devil worship fails. The hillbillies, the country boy can't survive. The John Deere hat wins. You lose, we win. Your little devil palace is falling down.
Memphis leaders, of course, hope the pyramid doesn't fall, that it instead rises as a beacon for outdoor enthusiasts and good family fun when Bass Pro sets up shop, this time without a crystal skull at the top. Kim Clark, Action News 5.
Buddy says that the Mississippi River flooded it out one time too. It is right on the side of the Mississippi River, just as they believe that the Great Pyramids actually were in ancient times, that they were actually by a river at that time. Memphis, of course, is also a city in Egypt, long before it was a city in Tennessee. But the point, I love that the news anchors, I mean, Alex Jones is Alex Jones, but they're like, these just conspiracy theories, and they're like, there was a crystal skull in the top of it, but, I mean, the rest of it, he's just making up. Hilarious, though, Alex Jones. But anyway, just kind of interesting. That just came to my attention this week, so I thought I would throw that in there for you. But its structures are not insignificant is kind of the point of this, and there are structures all over the place in the United States of America, very prominent structures, and they have significance. They're not built without intention. Things don't happen by accident. You don't put crystal skulls in the top of pyramids by just like, oh, this will be fun. There's great intention in these things. And throughout the United States of America, in various landmarks, there are various evil representations. We, of course, know this Washington Monument to be an obelisk, what was referred to in the Old Testament as an Asherah pole, the largest Asherah pole in the whole world. It is a phallic symbol is what it is. And then, of course, we already discussed some time ago the measurement of it, which is 555 feet, which is 6,660 inches, which is just strange. All of its sides measuring 55, maybe and a half feet, which is 660 inches wide, maybe 666 inches wide on each side. Just, you know, strange coincidences, I guess, that happen. I'm sure no nefarious powers were at work when they decided to do this. And then as we were closing last week, we did bring up the idea that Washington, D.C., the grid of it is laid out in a really, really interesting structure. Maybe more interesting than New Orleans. If you ever go to New Orleans, or if you have ever seen a map of New Orleans, it's called the Crescent City. It sits right in this little semicircular section of the Mississippi River, and because of that, they kind of designed the roads around the river, so the roads all go in a fan shape, and they kind of come into this one central area, and then they go out. And I generally have a pretty good sense of direction, but New Orleans is one of those cities where you just can't get your bearing because the streets all intersect in crazy ways, and you have those weird, really sharp triangular corners, and it's just like you don't build cities like this. Roads should just go in a grid, and that's usually how it is, which makes it even more interesting that Washington, D.C., here's an aerial picture of Washington, D.C., and you can see down there at the bottom of your screen, that's the Washington Monument. And just to the north of that, in that circular section up there, is the White House. You have the Capitol building all the way over here to the right, down in the bottom right corner. And if you are an eagle-eyed observer, you might notice in the very center of the shot there, the streets are in something of an interesting looking pattern with these prominent circular features, one there at the bottom and then two up there at the top, and you have two also over here. And in case you can't see it, I enhanced the image for you. So that's a 5-pointed star, also known as a pentagram. And right at the point of that pentagram is the White House. The White House is right down there at the bottom. So there it is. You can kind of see it maybe a little bit better now. And there you go. You have basically the city laid out around this 5-pointed star. I mean, it's pretty evidently there. Very strange that it comes down, and at the point of that is the White House. Say what you will, call that another coincidence if you want to, but I think not, maybe. Of course, if you're not familiar with the 5-pointed star, here is maybe a better representation of what that is. It is a satanic symbol. That is a goat there, prominently featured. Of course, Jesus says that there's a day coming when he will separate the sheep from the goats, the sheep being the children of God, the goats being, of course, those who are the sons of Satan. And the Satanists have adopted the goat as their mascot. They claim the goat proudly. They have no problem being sons of Satan. So that, one of the interesting features in Washington, D.C., but there's another one, and if you go back to an aerial map here, and we've zoomed in a little tighter on the southern section, the White House now up in the upper left-hand corner, and then you come down and you have the Washington Monument, and then you have the National Mall there right in the middle, if you've ever been. Beautiful walk, which takes you right over to the Capitol building, which is kind of center right there now, and you can see the Capitol building there, and as you're looking at that, you think some interesting landscaping there too, perhaps. And if you turn this picture, gives you a little bit better kind of picture of that. And you see that there, the Capitol building now in the center, and we're facing due east in the direction towards the sun. And just a little bit closer, and it kind of looks like, well, what does that look like to you? To me, it looks like an owl. I mean, that was the first thing that I thought when I saw it. Looks like a horned owl with, the eyes and the horns there and his little big belly and his little tail there. And this one's a little more open to interpretation, but it's kind of, it even like comes in with that hourglass kind of shape there, which is just like, I don't know. And you're wondering, well, what about an owl? What's the significance of an owl? Do tell. Well, this is, here you go. Anybody heard of the Bohemian Grove before? The Bohemian Grove? Just only a couple, huh? This is a place out in California, out in the middle of a redwood forest, where every year they have a gathering of some of the most wealthy and powerful people in the world who go out to this, it's some 3,000-acre establishment, privately owned, fenced in all around, protected by armed guards. No one is allowed to go in there unless you are invited. And Alex Jones, wouldn't you know, he broke in there one year when they were having one of these meetings, and he took some video and he took some pictures of what happens inside the Bohemian Grove. And one of the things that happens is a ceremony called the Cremation of Care. And all of these wealthy and powerful individuals, and as rumor has it, every single United States president has attended this event, every single one. There are actually pictures of Ronald Reagan, if your heart can take it, and also Richard Nixon sitting at a table together at one of these events. But they have seen, every single president has been seen in the city around the time that this happens. But they have this ceremony called the Cremation of Care, and here's a picture of it from when Alex Jones snuck inside of there. And you see these hooded individuals standing in front of this giant statue of an owl. And there is a fire that is burning right in front of them. And what is being burned in that fire is an effigy, which is call it a mannequin. It is a representation of a human being, a small human being. They call it an effigy. They say that it's not real. Alex Jones, when he was there, swore it looks like a real person. You can ask Alex Jones. He was an eyewitness there. He said he swore that there was a real person inside of like some burlap sack that got tossed into this fire. The same sort of thing that happened in Israel back in the olden days when they were offering sacrifices to Moloch. And this bears the same name. This is referred to as a Moloch, which is essentially a god that you offer your children to as a sacrifice. It is called the cremation of care, and the idea is you have this young, innocent person, and innocence is essentially destroyed there. And this opens the week-long extravaganza, where after that there's a bunch of, legend has it, a bunch of drinking. Prostitutes are brought in for all of these rich and powerful men. And there's no women allowed at the thing whatsoever. Not even the help are allowed to be female. The only females that come in are prostitutes. You can look up some videos. There's somebody who went around the city right outside of where this happens who was interviewing all of the townspeople. None of them wanted to talk about it. None of them wanted to say anything about it. They said, we just see these black SUVs come in here once a year. We see helicopters flying in. We see... They named some of the politicians that they see. Bill Clinton and Kamala Harris were in there, just so that you know. Not Kamala Harris, Joe Biden were in that number. So there you go. It's funny because Bill Clinton was once asked about the Bohemian Grove. This was before he was a president. And they said, do you know anything about the Bohemian Grove? And he said, isn't that where all those Republicans get together and run around naked in the woods, was what he said. And then, well, for his rite of passage, he had to go run around naked in the woods too, apparently. But here's a little bit of the video. I tried to find the video of Alex Jones from when he was out there, but wouldn't you know, it's been mostly scrubbed from the internet. But I was able to track down this one little short snippet. So this is a video of this still picture that you've been looking at right now. Here you go.
Which would pursue us here has lost its power under these friendly trees. So shall we burn thee once again this night, and in the flames that eat thine effigy, we shall read the sign, Midsummer sets us free. You shall burn me once again! Not with these flames, which hither ye have brought from regions where I reign. Ye fools and priests, I spit upon your fire.
Just a little lighthearted fun for the family on a weekend night. So that's where our presidents hang out. Go figure. And other rich and powerful and influential people. And it's just, you could call it theater, you can call it whatever you want to, but it comes across as evil to me. I guess I am not the judge of what is good and evil, but that was just a little bit like, probably not that. Here's just a picture of an owl, and this just straight from Wikipedia. In many pagan tradition, owls are revered as symbols of wisdom, knowledge, and the spiritual realm, often associated with transformation and the afterlife, representing the transition between worlds and the ability to see beyond the veil of reality. So owls, these mysterious creatures, they are revered because they are nocturnal, right? They come out in the darkness, and they have the ability to see in the darkness. So they are these kind of mystical creatures, and they are revered by the occult. So it just, I scratch my head a little bit when I'm thinking, man, did we really need to put the Capitol building inside of this thing that looked like an owl? We couldn't go for an eagle. We couldn't do the landscaping to look like an eagle. But this idea of basically kind of seeing through the darkness, and you might even talk about illumination, as we had been talking about, which brings us to another iconic piece of American, kind of American architecture, not really, but good old Lady Liberty. What could possibly be going on here? At this point in this study, you should already be seeing something so symbolic and be thinking to yourself, like, what is actually going on here? There's all kinds of imagery, all kinds of, potential for metaphor here. And what exactly is going on here? Well, it's difficult to say exactly, but there are, when we look for sort of origin stories for the Statue of Liberty, for Lady Liberty, notice first maybe the crown, which is prominently on her head. And if you go into the Wayback Machine, when we first started this study, somewhere around week 2 or 3, when we were talking about, actually it might have been a little further than that, when we were talking about Constantine, well, we brought up the sun god before that. But when we talked about Constantine, we talked about the Sol Invictus, if you remember this. And this is not a coin, but just a metal medallion, a leaf disc dedicated to Sol Invictus. That is the invincible sun. Remember, the sun that will not die, the sun god of the Roman Empire, Sol Invictus, along with Liberta, the Roman goddess and personification of liberty, influenced the design of liberty enlightening the world. So you think to yourself, liberty. Yes. And when you think about liberty, notice first the idea of enlightenment. You go back to the beginning, right? And this is the promise that the devil makes to humanity, enlightenment. Do this thing I'm telling you. God will open your eyes. You will be, not God will, but your eyes will be opened. You will know the things God doesn't want you to, offering enlightenment. But then the idea of liberty. And liberty is, when you're thinking about what liberty actually is, to be liberated is to be freed from oppression, freed from bondage. And we think about this in Christian terms, and we think we're freed from sin, right? We're freed from the powers of darkness. And of course, as we've been talking about the occult and the stories, that the way that the devil tries to get in, the devil takes the truth and he twists it around and uses it for his purposes. And of course, the story that the devil was telling Adam and Eve is, you guys are in bondage. God is keeping secrets from you. I want to set you free. I want to liberate you. I want to open your eyes so that you're not in bondage anymore. And the devil promised liberty to humanity. That was his promise. That was his deception. And then you have this goddess, and of course anything that is calling itself a god that is not Yahweh is demonic, is from the devil. So you have a goddess who bears the name Liberty. And then it's just interesting to start going down this rabbit hole just a little bit. The face of Lady Liberty bears a striking resemblance to a painting of Lucifer. So there's a painting of Lucifer from 1797. And there's, of course, the Statue of Liberty constructed in 1875. And maybe it's a little bit of a stretch. You have that squarish brow of the nose there. The lips really kind of do it for me. You even have the kind of like the helmet there over on old Lucifer, kind of matches the hairline of Lady Liberty there. And just kind of, a little bit interesting, maybe. But then there's this sculpture of Lucifer. And you see in that sculpture there, he's there with his wings, which have turned sort of demonic looking. He's holding a crown in his hand, signifying basically that he's fallen. And then you see there's shackles around his feet. There's a broken chain there as he has been set free, as he has been liberated from his oppressor, Yahweh. Here's a closer look of the chains that have come off of, the shackle's still there, but the chain has been detached. And did you know that on the foot of the Statue of Liberty, there's a broken chain? You can do with that what you want to, whatever that might mean. But we find even a little more compelling evidence that there is something kind of nefarious at work here when you consider the fact that this came from France. This was a gift from France, and we actually have a French poet who wrote something about this idea of this libertas, this female personification of liberty. And I found this really interesting article in the Satanic Scholar website. According to the Satanic Scholar, in Victor Hugo, if you're familiar with Victor Hugo, the French poet, in his La Fin de Satan, that is the end of Satan, and while at first that sounds like a pretty cool, okay, Satan's done, what this means, it becomes more apparent as you read it. A feather from the archangel Lucifer's wing falls from heaven down to our world and becomes liberty, Lucifer's angelic daughter. Hugo's Luciferian angel, Liberty, descends to earth at the time of the fall of the Bastille. This is, of course, the French Revolution, which launched the French Revolution and ushered in the modern world, showing just how intertwined romantic Satanism was with the revolutionary politic of the time. So the idea of a satanic figure fighting against his oppressor, seeking freedom and revolution, you can see how these ideas can easily be intertwined with a nation like, say, France or, the United States of America trying to break free from oppression. For Hugo, the angel of liberty not only instigates earthly uprisings, but enacts the cosmic reconciliation between God and Satan. Fascinating. God and Satan become reconciled. It is God himself who brings Lucifer's feather to life as liberty, Hugo's deity announcing to his damned, despairing angel, and here is an excerpt from Victor Hugo's poem. Come, your prison will be pulled down and hell abolished. This is God talking to Lucifer, I believe. Come, the angel Liberty, yes, is your daughter and mine. So God and Satan had a child together. That child was Lady Liberty. The sublime parentage unites us. The archangel is reborn and the demon dies. I have face and baleful darkness, and none of it is left. Satan is dead. Be born again, heavenly Lucifer. Come, rise up from the shadows with dawn on your brow. So, Lady Liberty has her origins in Satanism. Liberty is this idea of being set free from slavery. And what I just find very interesting is that in the New Testament, and we looked at this when we were doing our study in Ephesians, that Paul identifies himself constantly as a slave. He says, I am a slave to whom? To Jesus. I am a bond servant to Jesus. I am chained to Jesus, and I would prefer it no other way. And this idea of being set free is found throughout Satanism. Now, I am not saying that it is wrong for a country to fight for its independence. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that the American Revolution was wrong or that it was satanic or driven by Satan. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying it is an opportunity for satanic ideas and agendas to overlap the reality of the country that we live in. And we see these things going on all over the place. We see these satanic messages and imagery being interlaced even in our nation's history and architecture and all of these other things. But To close out this article from the Satanic Scholar, the significance of the symbol of Lucifer's liberty feather is threefold. It stresses that most important component of Lucifer myth, there's some typo there, the apostate angel's revolutionary struggle for freedom. It underlines the romantic refashioning of this liberty-loving Lucifer as beautiful rather than bestial, and it designates the luminous rebel angel's celestial revolt as the inspiration for terrestrial man's quest for self-determination. So all of these things, which are essentially American staples, are also adopted and appreciated by Luciferianism. And these are just a few ideas to put out there. And again, I'm not saying that inherently the United States of America is evil, but what I am saying is there are evil powers at work within the United States of America. And to believe that your favorite politician or your favorite party or agenda or whatever are just blanketedly the good guys, that there's the good guys and the bad guys, and it's just cut and dry, the left and the right, and you pick your side, and as long as you pick the right side, no bad can befall you. We have to get rid of this idea. The devil is at work in the world. He masquerades as an angel of light. He looks like a good guy. He looks like the guy who wants to set you free from your bondage and from your slavery. And if you're not careful, and if you don't know exactly what is going on, you can very easily fall into a trap of getting all riled up and taking arms and going to fight a holy war somewhere for your own freedom when you're not actually doing the will of God in the world. You're doing the will of man at best and Lucifer at worst. So again, I think the United States of America still, I believe it to be still the greatest country in the world. I say it with less confidence all the time, but I still believe it's the greatest country in the world. I believe it is unprecedented what has happened in the United States of America across the history of the world. We have never seen anything like it. We doubtful ever will see anything like it again, because chances are when the United States of America falls, the rest of the world right behind it. But the United States of America is extremely important and influential in the world. And I wonder if I were to ask you this question: what is America's number one export? What is America known for the most? What do we give out to the world? Jets? Well, yeah. The industrial military complex is alive and well, that's for sure. Technology, movies, I would say closer to movies. I would say that the number one export from America is culture. The number one thing that is propagated throughout the world that derives from the United States of America is culture. And what is the culture of the United States? It does change. It's got an identity complex. But I would say one of the staples, throughout history, at least going back to maybe like starting in maybe the 50s and the 60s, would be like sex, drugs, and rock and roll. We're pretty well known for that. And just this idea that's kind of just encapsulates sort of some of the American culture that is being exported throughout the world through various forms, which we will talk about next week, of media. We talked about the idea of media. We will talk about it again next week. Media comes from the Latin, and it just means in the middle. That the media is something or someone who stands in the middle, in between two parties, one party over here and one party over there, and the media is the one in the middle, from where we get our word medium, small, medium, large. Medium is the one in the middle. It's a weird word, isn't it? It's like, what's medium mean? It means in between. Mediums, the ones who you go to if you want to contact a dead relative, right? The medium is the intercessor between the dead person and the live person. The media. So then when it comes to the media as we know it, news, movies, music, you have to wonder, well, we're on this side as the consumer. The media is the thing we're consuming. Who's sending the message? Whose message are we consuming through the media? And what's very interesting, and that we will look at next week, is it's just curious why there are so many pictures of so many celebrities. You can see them all up there covering one of their eyes, making this pose where they're just showing one of their eyes. It's kind of strange. Some prominent ones on there. You got Lady Gaga. She's real famous with the kids. I don't know if she still is anymore. Rihanna, you got even Tom Brady's up there. And even more than that, then you just get like this stuff with Jay-Z and Beyonce. And it's like, why are they making triangles with their hands like this? And then why is Jay-Z posing for this picture where he's making a triangle and looking through it with one eye? That seems to be pretty intentional. And I want to leave you with this, because as you start to talk about these things, you often get, ridiculed when you start talking about these sorts of things. I share them, with only select people. You guys are all my friends, I guess. Well, and of course, the whole internet now, as this is going out live to the world. When the roundup happens, I'll be first on the list, I'm sure. That's a price I'm willing to pay for you guys. Hope I don't eat those words one day. But when you start to talk about these things, people like to make mockery of it, and I just thought that this was really funny. Here is an appearance of the beloved Jim Carrey on the Jimmy Kimmel Show, and just let me know what you make of this scene right here.
Dumb and Dumber 2 opens tomorrow. Please say hello to Jim Carrey. Is that a gang sign? Have you,
Oh, like you don't know what it is. You don't know what that is.
I have no idea.
Well, you don't know. Jimmy Fallon doesn't know. David Letterman doesn't know.
We don't know.
All the comics and show business don't know what this is. Right? Yeah.
What is it?
Come on, Jimmy. Seriously, the time is up. People are hip to this kind of stuff. I'm here tonight to blow the lid off it, to be the whistleblower. I'm sick and tired of the secrets and the lies. It is the secret symbol of the Illuminati, and you're a part of it, and it is the all-mocking tongue.
Oh. I like it. It is a scraping.
It's the symbol of the all-mocking tongue. And I'm sick of it. I want everybody to be in on the joke, man. You know what I mean? Like, for years now, talk show hosts, people on television, people in sitcoms have been hired by the government to throw you off the track, to distract you, to make you laugh and stuff like that, make you happy and docile so you don't know what's really going on. You know, and they get out there in the woods in a circle naked and they decide these things and, you know, and look at him trying to come it up. It's hilarious, hilarious. And, you know, and I'm sick of, hold on a second. You know what they're trying to do? Who? This thing is buzzing. Hold on. They're trying to turn us into, consumer drones of some sort. Hold on. I just got to get this.
And yeah.
Yeah, listen, I'm in the middle of blowing the lid off some...
What happened?
I'm sorry, Jimmy. I was temporarily interrupted by my iPhone 6 Plus.
That's a big one, huh?
5.5 heads-up HD display. I think what I was really trying to say was I think people will enjoy Dumb and Dumber this weekend.
And that is what I thought you
They should all go to the theater. They should all go to the theater tomorrow and see it. Because we could use a good laugh. Ha, 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 ha.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Kimmel. Did you know there are things other than pornography on the internet? Watch them on the Jimmy Kimmel Live YouTube channel, which, much like your own body, I encourage you to explore.
There you go. That's what's being put out there for entertainment for people these days. The ad at the end just killed me. You couldn't really pick a better one than that. So make of that what you will. But we're going to be talking next week all about those sorts of things. And when it comes to media and movies and Hollywood and the music industry, did you know that there actually was a government-run organization that spun out several of the most famous musicians? We'll find out about that one next week. But there you have it. If there are any questions or smart remarks, now is the time. Mike, I knew you would have something. The Apocalypse of Adam. Yeah, you asked about that. Uh-huh. That a tyrant God made the world? Yeah. Right. Yes. Yes. For those watching at home, in the Apocalypse of Adam, a Gnostic writing, it talks about Lucifer being the one who wanted to liberate the world from a tyrannical God. That God, of course, is the oppressor, and Lucifer is the savior. Yeah. So you see that kind of imagery is all throughout the occult. That Lucifer's the benevolent chain breaker, right? Anybody else? A weird name for God, yeah. Wouldn't know it. Yeah, sure. You can do that. Haley, were you raising your hand sheepishly? No? Were you stretching? Okay.
When you were talking about the, like, romanticizing the occult and everything like that, and romanticizing, like, Lucifer, I was thinking about, like, they do that a lot in, like, movies or, like, TV shows, like the actual TV show Lucifer. Like, he wasn't a bad guy. He was just misunderstood, you know, and, like, he was mad at, you know, I think they portrayed God more, they portrayed God as his father. Yeah, yeah. And so he was just, like, misunderstood, and, like, he was hurt because his dad had rejected him and everything. And it was almost like they wanted you to feel sorry for him because, you know, he wasn't the bad guy. He wasn't trying to, you know, stir up trouble and drama. He was just trying to, you know, he was just misbehaving and acting out like he was hurt, you know, like.
Yeah.
So I think about things like when you talk about romanticizing that kind of stuff, like it's still very prevalent in our culture to romanticize that kind of stuff and to romanticize, you know, like Maleficent, the movie Maleficent, you know.
Uh-huh.
There was another one. She was just misunderstood. She wasn't bad. She wasn't evil. She wasn't, you know, she just needed a hug type thing, you know.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, so again, for those watching at home, Jessica just brought up the many stories where they've been retold about the devil being the good guy or the classic villain being the good person. I remember in elementary school, we were introduced to the story of the three little pigs. And the big bad wolf wasn't a big bad wolf. He just had a cold and was trying to borrow ingredients to make some soup to make him better or something from the pigs. And he kept on sneezing and blowing their house down. And see, he's been painted as the villain the whole time. And it's kind of like, I mean, you have to wonder a little bit, like, I mean, what are they trying to do in getting us to think that the person who we know to be the villain, we know. This is the reason we tell stories and we have fairy tales. There's a very clear good and evil, so we know who to cheer for and who to cheer against. And then even as children, you know, they're trying to get us to think, is the bad guy always the bad guy? It was funny, without question. Just because things are funny and entertaining does not mean that they might not be evil. I'm not saying that that book was evil, but it is maybe something that we ought not to be teaching children. Maybe the guy who you've been told your whole life who drives around your neighborhood in a van with no windows on it handing out candy is actually a nice guy. Your parents just don't want you to have candy. Maybe you should go take candy from that guy. You know, that's maybe not a great message to be telling children. Anyway, we'll see a lot about that messaging next week. So I will close one more time with the idea that I do not, I love our country. However, my hope is not in our country. My hope is not in any politician. My hope is not in our military. It is not in our economy. My hope is in Jesus Christ and in Him alone. And if it turns out, if it should turn out, that the United States of America is actually secretly a satanic cabal, my heart is prepared to not be broken at all. Because I don't care. I have one country, I have one home, it's in heaven. I have one leader, He's Jesus. That's the end of the story. I would say that you should probably just be open to the idea that some of the people who you think you can trust and depend on to lead, particularly our country, might not be wonderful people underneath. They obviously have to portray themselves as good and benevolent people. They have to in order to win public approval. But what happens behind closed doors or out in the Bohemian Grove and all of those things, no one knows. I'm not sure. I've never heard Donald Trump named. We've got other reasons to be suspicious about him, but I've never heard him named in the Bohemian Grove. Definitely today they probably wouldn't want him out there. But Miss Pat. Yeah, it's in Northern California. So, yes. Mike, did you find the name?
No, but the Noxus.
Gnostic. Yes. Yes, the Illuminator. Yes, Illuminator, Illuminati, Illumination, Light. Illuminati, yes, is a, yes, it is. Correct. Yes, yes. It was a real organization that, you know, disappeared and now doesn't exist. There's probably secret meetings that are happening that nobody knows about. I'm pretty sure that people are meeting in dark, smoky rooms, and we will never, ever know about it. Almost certainly. I did watch I watched that documentary on Hitler and the Nazis and all of that stuff. Boy, that was a lot of dark, smoky rooms there. And then when we let them live so we could use their technology, we had their scientists who had murdered millions of Jews come work for us. Man, how about that, huh? There's some justice for you. But we're going to go ahead and close it out. And if you want to talk, I'll be here. You can come down and talk. But there we go. God, we thank you for this time together, God. We thank you for your love and your grace for us. And we thank you, God, that you have your hand on each one of our lives, God. And we pray that as we believe your hand has been on our country for these many years, and as we have had freedom to practice our faith here in a way unlike any other place in the world, God, one of the great advantages of our country, the freedom of religious expression, also comes with the reality that people can practice religion here that is displeasing to you, God. And people that have gods other than you are free to worship here, God, and are free to carry on about their business here. And we pray, God, that you would spare each one of us, God, from the evil one, that you would keep your hand of protection on every single one of us, God, that you would keep your hand on this country and on its leaders. And we do pray for, and we believe for, God, a revival to sweep this nation. I'm encouraged at the news that I heard just recently that there is a resurgence of young people who are coming back to the church in droves, God. And we praise you for that. We thank you, God, that there is, in the hearts of young people, there is an awakening happening. And we pray, God, that your hand of provision and care remain on this country. God, that you would open the eyes of our leaders, God, to your light, to the true light of the world. And just that blessing and provision would be here on us, especially in these turbulent times that we are coming into now, God. But we love you. We trust you for all of these things. God, let our hope be in you, nothing else. We ask it all in the matchless name of Jesus. And all God's children said, amen. Amen.